In the book of Genesis, chapter 3, we find the story of Adam and Eve. Within the confines of this story, there is talk about a tree. A communication or a conversation takes place between Eve and a serpent concerning a tree that Eve is not supposed to eat from. God has commanded her that she shouldn't mess with it, to avoid it at all costs. The omnipotent, which means all-powerful, omnipresent, which means forever present or all-present, omniscient God created a tree and placed it in the middle of a garden, but he didn't want the woman who's also in the middle of the garden to touch it. Now, we have some serious problems here, because we're told and we're taught that this is the story of the original sin. And because of the events in this chapter 3 of Genesis, all men fall and all men must die. And for centuries, we have blamed Eve for the predicament of mankind. But look like Eve had a co-conspirator. And no, I'm not talking about the snake. If God did not want Eve to touch this tree, then he could have done some defensive things to keep her from it. He could have placed the tree on the mountain. He could have put it under the water. He could have placed the tree on Mars if she can't get it there. He could have put angels around the tree to keep her from partaking of the tree. He does this when they finally eat from the tree and he exiles them from Eden. He places a cherubim on the outside of the garden with swords that's moving in all directions. So we know that it's within his capability of placing guards around the tree. He could have made the tree ugly. He could have made it filled with thorns. He could have put a moat around it, he's an omniscient, omnipotent God. He could have done anything to this tree. He could have placed angels around it. He could have taken out of the consciousness of Adam and Eve the thought that the tree even existed. But he does none of that. He places the tree in the middle of the garden where they can see it from every vantage point. He makes the tree beautiful so that it is desired. It is shiny. Now, I want you to really see the picture here, because you have newly minted humans like newly born babies who don't know what sin is, who don't know what death is, who's never been alive, so they don't know how to die. They don't know what really life is about. And the first thing you tell them is, don't touch this. And you put it in a place where they can touch it. That's like me having a toddler and putting a piece of its favorite cake, his or her favorite cake, on a coffee table and telling them not to touch it. And when they do, I become all upset about it. And I punish them to an eternity of suffering when they are children. It doesn't make sense. Not for an all-knowing God, an all-powerful God, a God who could protect his tree, a God who should have been there when the snake was talking to Eve and just stopped the conversation. Hey, wait a minute, snake. Wait a minute, Satan or Samuel or whoever you are. I told her not to touch the thing. Why even create a creature that can tempt her to do something? Or even better yet, why create a tree that can damn all of mankind to hell? Why even make the thing? Don't even make it. See, if God doesn't make the tree, then there's no possible way for man to fall. And the story gets worse because Jesus teach that he saw Satan fall from heaven to earth like lightning. Why kick the devil out of heaven and bring him to earth? Why not just kill the devil outright? Why would you bring the devil here to damn all humans to death and a possible eternity in hell's fire? This doesn't sound like the actions of a loving God. There's some serious problems with the text. You know, God's heavens project has failed, and now God's earth project has failed. And everybody get blamed for it except for God. But he's the perfect Father. He's the all-knowing deity. Why can't he solve this? Why can't he create a place that's not defiled either by a devil or by an Eve? This is mind-boggling. And this is why I don't believe that the scriptures is God's words to man. Because a half omniscient God will not make these mistakes. 10% omniscience would not make these mistakes. This is just too far. And for this to be the foundation of Christianity and Islam and Judaism, we are on a very shaky foundation. Because you're telling us to believe that a snake could talk. And you're telling us to believe that God is so inadept that he sends the snake to the very garden where his newly minted humans are, but he doesn't want them to eat from the tree, and yet he allows this snake to come into where they are to tempt them so they can eat from the tree. And the theology that comes out of this is that you're saying that he did this so that I will have a right to choose. That's what most theologians want to say. That the reason he didn't stop Satan or he didn't stop what was going on is that he wanted me to have a right to choose. Well, if God wanted me to have a right to choose, then let me say this. There's another quality of God called immutability, which means he can't change. He's always the same today, yesterday, and forever. And so if God wants me to have choice, And because he wants me to have choice, he sent the devil here to give me a choice so that I could be tempted. And he placed the tree there to give Eve a choice so that she could be tempted. And once she ate from the tree, why did he give up this characteristic that he has to not interfere? Because, see, he throws them out of Eden before they touch the tree of life and have immortality. So if he wants me to have choice, then let me choose both this sin and both the tree of life. But theologians say, well, he didn't want mankind living forever in a dying body. Well, just heal my body. But let me make the choice. See, you can't have this both ways. And so many Christians cannot see truth because they're doing spiritual gymnastics trying to make this make sense. And it doesn't make sense. Not in the slightest. The more we study the scriptures, the worse it's going to get. When we get to Abraham and all of the lies he tells, to both Pharaoh and Abimelech, it gets bad. When God searches for Moses and he can't find Moses because Moses is hid, it gets bad. When God says, no man shall look at my face and live. And yet there's people in the text that looked God right in the face and they lived, according to the Bible. There's serious problems with the text. It doesn't make sense. And this is why the church is in a free fall. Why people are leaving the church in record number. Because it doesn't make sense. Why didn't God put the tree on Mars? Man wouldn't have fallen. And he still could have given men the ability to have choices. I could choose red over blue. I can choose green over purple. I would still have the ability to choose without the possibility of going to hell forever. Now, Bishop Spong and Bishop Carlton Pearson had a different take of the scriptures. And Christianity can be a beautiful religion if you take the literal out of it. If you understand that these are parables, that these are anthropomorphic sayings, if you can understand that these are teachings and lessons, but this did not literally happen. And since it did not literally happen, it is wrong for you to take any text and literalize it and say, well, if you don't do this or you don't do that, then you will go to hell forever. It is wrong to do that. We have a lot of work to do because you've been so psychologically damaged and so brainwashed by Christianity, and really all Christianity is paganism repackaged. That's all it is. It is pagan gods, Mithras and Dionysus, Osiris, repackaged. Okay? That's all it is. And I am pagan, and I understand it, and I can see it. I used to be Christian. And when I search these scriptures and I looked at these scriptures, it just didn't add up. You get to a ceiling. There's one ex-preacher that says, seminary will make you into an unbeliever. And that's true when you start really finding out the nuts and bolts of how this works. Christianity is repackaged paganism. And the way they fix that is they try to scare you off from it and tell you if you don't believe exactly what they say, then in hell you'll lift up your eyes forever. And you get scared and you listen to this garbage. And so they pass it on from generation to generation to generation, and people believe it with all their hearts, minds, and souls. But if you take just a moment to think about it, you can see the truth of it. There's a lot of work we have to do. A whole lot of work. We'll get it done. This is Testing the Bible. And until next time, be blessed.